We at Modern Muse, we like to do these weekly showcases on women that we are inspired by, that are living an abundant life, women that we can learn from, women that we aspire to be like. And so we chose you because you are an actress, a seasoned veteran actress. I read through all your credits and I was like, oh wow, Viola Davis.
Yo, I'm trying to be like her when I grow up.
You know what? That was my last question for you. I was like, who is your go-to? Because we're going to talk about everything. I know we're kind of going to be around all over the place, but you're also a choreographer. You're a seasoned actor. You're a choreographer. You worked with Kanye West. Yeah. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But you're also an author, a published author.
Self-published.
What?
Self-published. Did it myself.
Self-published. See, you see why you're the Muse of the Week now? So there's all of those things to celebrate. So this is about celebrating you and really getting to know you better, letting our network get to know you better and expand on everything that you're doing. But we want to focus today. So it's National Infertility Awareness Week. Mm-hmm. I have your book, The Game of Life.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to tell our Modern Muse family how our friendship started. Yeah. And why I have this book in my hands. Absolutely. They know. Yeah. So you and I have a couple of friends, mutual friends in common. And one of my best friends, Brescia, told you about my miscarriage last year.
Yeah.
And you took it upon yourself to write me this beautiful note. Maybe I'll read this to you guys later. I'm not sure that I don't know that I want to share that yet. It's so, you sent me this book. And Brescia kept asking me, she was like, I sent you a book. Did you get it yet? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Deep in the office somewhere, right on time, I found it. And I read your entire book in one day. I think I told you that. The only thing I've done is the journaling that you do at the end, the day that, where you start. I don't know what you called it. I forgot what you called it. The weigh-ins.
Yes. The devotional.
Yes. I haven't done that yet. I started, and I think I got to day 3, and then, I'm pregnant. So
life happens.
Life happens, but I will get back to this. It's called The Game of Life, Releasing the Weight When God Says to Wait, which I love. So we're going to get into that because as a part of, National Infertility Awareness Week, we want to acknowledge the fact that the statistics are 6% of women 15 to 44 are unable to get pregnant. Mm-hmm. And then 12% of women aged 15 to 44 have difficulty getting pregnant and also carrying to term.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. I know those numbers they don't seem staggering, but when it's your friend and when it's your mother, your sister, when it's you, that's a hard pill to swallow. Absolutely. So I want to start, and I want to thank you so much, Dacia, because I know how hard it is to be vulnerable about these things. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you, I guess my first question is, I know you're a Christian woman. We pray together. You are very, it's funny. I prayed with my friend Essence last night, and she's another Essence Atkins. Do you know her?
Yeah, I sent her a prayer a couple of weeks ago, actually.
So you and Essence both make me cry. But I want you to kind of bring us through what that journey, not your journey through miscarriage and facing difficulty getting pregnant, but why did you choose to get so vulnerable about this in the way that you did? Because your book is it's very raw, and which is what I loved about it. I felt like I was talking to a friend.
Yeah. And I think that was the goal, right? Because I think it's easier to digest when you feel like it's a friend talking and not someone just telling you their story, right? Because we get invested with stories that we can relate to. And I found that if I write this as if I'm writing to my friend or if I'm writing to my sister, it's probably going to be better received, even when I'm letting her know how to engage in conversation with a couple who is actually going through infertility, right?
Right.
And so for me, I think it was important to make it very transparent and raw, because the authenticity is what wins. Like when we can actually relate and like, oh, I've been there, no matter how shameful it can feel, right? We always want to be in the company of things that we can relate to.
Right.
And so for me, it was actually, it stems from my journal. So it was more me saving myself from me, right? If I could talk to my own self, you know, and the journey that I was going through. But I found myself just being, my mind being imprisoned to the thoughts of what if this never happens for us. And so sometimes as a Christian, that's hard to express because we're walking, you know, in what is called belief, which can be entangled with religion, right? Like we don't go through things, but we actually do go through things, and we have difficulties processing them because of religion or because of the way that we grew up. And so for me, it was dismantling these ideas in my head and really starting to release what was truly going on in my life, in my journal, and then it turned into a book in hopes that it freed someone else as well.
I think that's the part that was really that I embraced, because I have a journal, and I don't know that I'm ready to share that so openly with people.
Yeah.
And I really commend you on doing that, especially because I know how hard it is as a Christian woman and a believer to say, God, I'm angry with you.
I'm offended.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there, and it's really, that's another hard pill to swallow, because you're like, okay, so I have nothing to hold on to.
Yeah.
How did you dig yourself out of that? I think I wrote, you wrote, I think I just put pen on myself, but you wrote how that your routine prayer life came to a halt. And I know how important that is. That's to someone who's a believer of the caliber that you are. That's life. That's everything.
It's oxygen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's oxygen. And so, but when you already feel like your oxygen is shut off, then you don't feel like you need to go get any oxygen, right? Because when you're lying in this state of offense, you're not talking anyways to God because you're mad. I mean, if you get offended with anybody, you usually shut down, right? And so for me, it was like, yeah, I don't feel like talking to you in general, you know? Right. And then I think the religion aspect made me feel like I needed to. But why? When I don't feel connected at the moment. I just don't feel connected, you know?
Religion does another funny thing, though, that God doesn't do, that religion does. Religion does a funny thing where it looks for things to blame, and you address that in your book.
Absolutely.
And I remember reading that and thinking to myself, like, wow, been there too.
Yeah.
When you talk to somebody and you bring them and you're talking to them about your pain, and so did you do this, or how, let's talk about what you did to get here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it in those terms. Demystify really that these are some of these reasons, these statistics are unknown to us.
Oh yeah.
There's no rhyme. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody really knows, and you don't ever really assume that that's your journey. When you're looking eye to eye at your husband at the altar, you don't think 7 years later you're not going to be able to have kids. That's not what your idea. You have this idea that's formulated in your head, right? First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes a baby in the baby carriage. Like that's just life. That's how it works. And so when your idea, when your perception of reality is now transformed into something that you had no idea, it feels like you got hit by a bus because it's still your dream, right? You're still holding on to something, this idea that you've created in your head. And that's not just infertility, that's in general. That's why we get into states of disappointment and despair. It's because we have this idea in our head, and then when it doesn't work the way that we thought it should, then that's when we get disappointed and we look for people to blame on why it didn't happen like that. But it's called life, right? If we could see the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end, then we wouldn't need a God, or we wouldn't need faith.
So staying on the faith aspect of it, because I know you've got plenty of that, and I know you found yourself and you've been through a roller coaster of emotions through your 7-year journey. Where are you now? And how are we, what advice, I know personally 3 people right now that are in this place of, they don't know what's happening.
Waiting.
They're in the state of, they're waiting. Yeah. So how do you wait with purpose? How do you create grace for yourself where you're able to look at your pregnant friends and say, I'm so happy for you? Because that's hard too. I've been there too.
Yeah. I think for the most part, the journey in and of itself, which is no longer 7 years, we're now on year 9, right? Because that book is a process,
right?
And it being a process means we have to choose to be patient with ourselves. You have to find a way to cope with the things that you can't control, because they're out of your control, right? Because no matter what route you go, you can choose alternative methods. You can choose the natural way. There is one divine person that's going to have that say regardless, right? You can go to how many people do we know that have had continuously failed IVFs or IUIs, and they show their journey? There is still a sovereignty that's happening over our heads that it's out of our control, And so for me, it's like finding the ways to free ourselves of what we process is our truth and what isn't our truth. You get into this cycle of, why isn't it happening for me? I've chosen to reframe my thinking, right? Even down to the word infertility. I take the power away from it by taking the I and N and making it lowercase, and taking the fertility and making it all caps. So I am in fertility. So I take the power away from it. I have to reframe my mind on what it is. It's gonna happen for me. I have to stay in that place, right? And say, by any means necessary, whatever route I take is gonna happen. But I'm not gonna receive it in a negative sense and say that I'm in fertility. No, I'm in fertility. This is a journey. So the journey is gonna happen. And when it comes down to just processing everyone else around me that seems to be moving and me stagnant in this particular area, again, this is just an element of life, right? Because social media can put us in a place where it seems like people are achieving their dreams and we sit here twiddling our thumbs. But that's not the case. Again, it's reframing, right? Because I choose to control the things that I control, and the things that I can't control, let them go. So I protect my environment. Sometimes that means that I'm not going to a baby shower. That doesn't mean that I'm not happy for you, but it is a constant reminder of what hasn't happened for me. So for me to be my authentic self and truly be happy for you, because life is a blessing. Regardless, I am also going to protect you from my triggers, and not put myself in those environments. But I will send you a gift. I will show you love. And I think that is how you have to, when you're in that journey, you have to protect your environments. Now, if you're okay one day and you can go celebrate and not have those types of triggers, because if I just started my cycle yesterday, right, which shows me now that I have another missed opportunity, I might not want to go celebrate with you that day. Just
it's about keeping it real with yourself and understanding that your energy might not match the situation. So you might. Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Because I used to process that as guilt.
That's very valid. There's nothing wrong with
that.
Yeah.
You got to protect your own sanity, and protect your own feelings. Because if not, you'll find yourself very angry and mad at the world, They're not susceptible to my feelings. They don't, I don't need to bring them into that. This is my journey. So then again, it's being mature enough to control my atmosphere as well. Like, I can't do that today.
Now we're talking about friends, and there's other things on here. I was reading the book, and you mentioned a particular friend that I love the whole story, because you're like, damn it, Ruby.
Oh, snap.
We're like, damn it, Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby called me and was like, so why you call me Ruby? Why you name me Ruby?
Really? I was like, I'll say Ruby because she clearly wrote it in the book. I think it's all good. But, even till this moment, I didn't know if I was going to say Ruby, because I'm like, what if it is a real person?
Nah, change the name.
We all have a Ruby.
We all got a Ruby.
We all have a couple of Rubies. So just for the people listening, for you guys listening, go get the book. It's actually funny too. You're funny. We play the blame game in life, and not just around this particular topic, right? I think it's very natural it's human nature when we go through things and we go through downfalls. Like I remember when I had my miscarriage, I was like blaming my sister for the 2 days before, not verbally, but I was like, she drove too fast and we went over that speed bump. Like I remember going back over those like little minute details, and it's craziness.
Yeah.
How did you release those feelings? Because you have to release them to move on, and then also that's one part. But then the other part is people are so uncomfortable, and in our really beautiful and genuine desire to say the right thing, we say the wrong thing.
Absolutely.
And so you have to have a lot of forgiveness, a lot of grace for people when you're in this waiting game and when you're in this journey. Because I remember when I had my miscarriage, and thank God I really do. I have a really solid group of friends that are they're all moms. I think not all of them, but I have a pretty solid group of mom friends and a pretty solid grounded group of non-mom friends.
Yeah.
But even still, in those people, I found like, wow, I can't believe she said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that it's coming from a beautiful place of healing, but inevitably there's like pain in the way that people want to mourn with you. And I want you to talk about that, because you give some great advice about that.
Yeah, it's natural, right? It's a natural way for people to try to empathize with you. But if this is not your journey, then your empathy is not authentic. You can sympathize with me,
which is different, right?
Which is different, but you can't actually sit in my mess and feel it. So in an effort to try to help, sometimes it hurts because you're saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. And
right.
What I've learned from the Ruby situation is to be vocal about what you're doing to me.
In the moment.
Right. Not later.
Yeah, I agree.
That's on me. That's not on you.
That's not on Ruby. That's the Rubies of the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And what happens is, if me and Ruby don't make it after I let her know, then Ruby wasn't my friend in the first place. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that too. Right? So I think that we get to this place where we don't want to offend people. But no, you're offending me. So I have the authority to at least tell you that you're offending me.
And also kind of a responsibility, because if somebody doesn't know why you're offended, they can't create the solution that you need.
Exactly.
And so it's just going to build upon, and that goes for everything. And I've really, that's a big lesson to learn, because, sometimes we want to be on the right side of things, even in just regular friendships, not even talking about these things. But learning to say, no, this is what I'm feeling, and it's okay to express my feelings, whether or not they accept them or not. At least they know where I'm coming.
At least they know, right? Yeah.
You wrote, sometimes silence is better than trying to relate or share information that can possibly make them feel worse. So you agree, and a lot of people agree. I've talked to a couple of people about this.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just, I'm here.
That's all I need is an ear.
I'm here. You need me to be at your door. I have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
You can do that. Right.
Right. And that sounding board, sometimes I need to hear myself.
Mm-hmm.
And in saying it to you, I'm hearing myself. It doesn't necessarily mean that I need advice from you at that moment. Right. Mm-hmm. It could be, I figure it out myself, and just you listening to me.
I've learned to say, may I offer some advice? And if the person is where I'm at in life, where I'm like, no, I don't want advice right now.
Yeah.
Or they say yes. That's on them to make the decision. But I'm
Absolutely.
going to at least say, may I offer some advice?
That is golden. I think I'm going to add that to a nugget in the book. Yeah. May I offer you some advice?
May I offer some advice? Because
Yeah.
I've been known to offer unsolicited advice, and
All the time.
yeah.
Yeah, me too. Guilty, right?
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. Yeah.
Intentional, beautiful intentions.
Beautiful intention.
Also, Dacia, talk to us a little bit about, you are in school right now getting
my master's.
Your master's in
writing and digital communication. Yeah. So it's kind of like unlocking a gift that I didn't know. So once I wrote the book, I was like, you have this idea, right, that everybody thinks they can write a book, because we all have a story, right? Really, now whether your book is good is going to be the question, right? So when I wrote the book, and then I started cracking myself up with my own book, like I was enjoying reading my own book.
Yeah, I was laughing.
I was like, my book is good, right? And I had a friend of mine who said, Dacia, if you don't know, now you know that you can write. No, you can really write, right? And I know that I used to write all the time. I'm a sociology major, like that's my undergrad. So I was constantly writing about the things that are happening in society, etc. And I kind of honed in on this skill, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to get my master's and keep honing in on the writing and then the digital communication, because we're constantly moving in the digital form, including this platform, right? The content strategy, Google Analytics, everything is constantly changing. So I actually, that had a program that's writing and digital communication, and to bring those two worlds together was just like, oh yeah, this is kind of, because I want to be able to write, then I can execute from the digital communication, from video production to Google Analytics, to all media. And so that was like kind of me staying in the realm of the entertainment as well, as we're moving into a lot of the social media platforms, even as our resumes, right? So just honing in on the skills a little more, and then eventually I probably will teach at the collegiate level, students that are in the entertainment
industry. Believe every word you just said. I believe every word you just said. You know, I'm back in school too.
Yeah, I know. How's it going for you?
That's another reason why well, it's great, although it's very hard for me right now because there's so much happening. And let me tell you something, for anybody out there that thinks or that has some sort of illusion that online school is easier.
It's not.
I want to tell you right now,
dismantle
it because it is just a lie.
Yeah.
It is hard. It is just as hard. It's time consuming, and you have to be very present.
Yeah.
So I'm really struggling right now. If I can have a moment of vulnerability here, I'm really struggling with, but in all the good ways, I'm struggling putting pieces of my life together that I'm in love with.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why we were like, we need to have Dacia on here. You have a very robust life. You're in school. Are you writing something else in tandem?
Well, I'm writing an op-ed right now for class that I probably will seek to get published about the gender pay disparities in Hollywood.
Wow.
So currently that is what I'm working on, which is overwhelming on my end too.
But that's overwhelming in different ways. That's emotionally overwhelming too, because those are our actual issues that we're dealing with.
Exactly.
I want to close out our infertility segment. And so we all know that there are a lot of treatments available to us, but they come at a financial price, they come at an emotional price, they come at a physical price.
Yeah.
What resources, if you could offer any personal anecdotes or any resources that you can offer our readers and our viewers, that you feel, or just anything you want to share in closing, because I know that we want to talk about a couple of other things and I don't want to take all your time, but I really want to honor you for taking the time and the space to talk about this with us. And you just don't know who's listening. And who's going to take one word that you said and it's going to change their day, going to change the trajectory of how they deal with this. So this is important stuff. Before we get to the fun,
I can't wait. But in closing, for infertility, of course, it is a happy moment, right? That we have to process. Like, let's not think that this is some sad thing. So happy National Infertility Awareness Week.
Amen.
Because it is amazing for us to shed light on such a taboo subject, just in general. And in light of that, if I could offer advice, my advice is to go with God and go with you, because you have to be at peace with any decision that you make. There are several alternative methods that can happen, but if you're not comfortable with it, then don't put yourself in a position that is going to stress you out. For me, they told us that we needed to go straight to IVF. IUI is not necessarily an option for us, which is insemination. That is the prognosis that they gave us. Now, for me, that's difficult to process when you don't necessarily have the diagnosis, because my husband was diagnosed with male factor infertility, right? So although it only takes one, something still isn't connecting between the two of us. It takes two to tango, right? So we're still in this together. And so I have to process, man, you mean so you're gonna have to stick me with a needle? But so I'm the one that I gotta go through everything. That's difficult to process when you literally are getting a clean bill of health. And so anxiety started to rise at the thought of IVF for me. But I know the more you educate yourself on these different methods, the more comfortable you will get. You will find something for you. For my go-to is a scripture that is, in all his ways are pleasant ways, and his paths are paths of peace, which means I'm going to follow my peace. If it gives me anxiety, I cannot go that route, because God is a God of peace. So if it's not peace, then it ain't God. And that's for me and my house, right?
I'm over here taking notes.
What'd you say?
I'm taking notes. I'm like, I ran out of space.
Right. If it gives you anxiety, it can't be God, because God calls himself a God of peace, right? And that doesn't mean that I won't eventually say we'll do IVF. It means that I need more information. I need more wisdom. I need things that are going to settle my spirit and make me more comfortable in moving forward. But right now, if I'm up here sweating bullets and I have a Zoom call and I have to walk away from the Zoom call and cry at whatever the doctor is saying, I'm not ready.
You're not ready.
So don't put yourself through something that you internally aren't ready
for. Know thyself.
Yeah, that's the advice. I can't tell you which method to go, which route to go, but I can tell you to go with your peace, because that is the only thing that is going to sustain you mentally, physically, and spiritually, is going with your peace. Period.
Oh, yeah, that is so beautiful and so he is the Prince of Peace. If there is no peace, it's not right.
It's not right.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, he says that I am not a man that I shall lie, nor the son of man that I shall repent. So if we say that he causes chaos, then he's saying that he's a liar. God is not a liar. So he's not a God of anxiety. God does not stress you out. That's the things that we put on ourselves, the things that we get into, the weights that we put on, right? So you got to start dismantling all the weights and taking them off and get to the core of why is that triggering you? Why can't you do that? Okay, then don't do it until you get to a place where your spirit is settled and you can move forward. This is how people make mistakes all the time. We move when we're anxious. It says, be anxious for nothing, but in all his ways with prayer, supplication, and thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to him, right? And the peace of God, he'll give you the peace that surpasses all understanding. It's about you not being anxious and releasing it to him. Once you release it to him, he'll give you the peace.
And it goes with everything.
With everything. It's not just fertility, right? You go with the peace. You know, when you're driving, he say, don't go that way. That's God. Follow your peace.
See, guys, I didn't know I was going to bring you guys to church today. But I'm so glad I did, because I missed church on Sunday because it was my sister's birthday.
Me all day long. Gotta bring it home. Right? It's just the core of
I've been at church for 2 days in a row with you and Essence. Okay, so thank you for that. I love, in closing of that segment, happy National Infertility Week of information. For all of you who want to get in contact with Dacia, we'll post those on social media, but I suggest that you go out and you get the Game of Life.
Yes, get my book.
Get the book. Julie wants to read it next.
Yes, Jewel. Yes, it's
Julie wants to read it next, and I told her I was going to bring her my copy, and Julie can read a description here.
Sure
okay.
Will.
In closing, I want to talk about some Hollywood choreographer. What are you still okay? I know you've worked with Kanye West. You have to tell us how it was working with Kanye. Is he I mean, I know he's super artistic and intelligent and all those things, but what is he like in person?
Okay, so that was a very long time ago. That was my first gig ever.
Wow.
As a professional dancer. Yep. And it's literally, my next book will talk about that. Like literally my first gig, I felt like God allowed me to do the Super Bowl of music. Like who really starts off as their first gig as the Grammys? Definitely a favorable situation because I didn't audition, right? It's like, what?
God.
Kanye is a genius. If I can sum it up in one word, he's a genius. Him and Will.i.am, they're geniuses.
Musical geniuses.
Musical geniuses. The way that their mind thinks. I mean, even from staging and he's awesome. I mean, he was awesome to work with back then. I don't know where Kanye is these days, but I do know back then he was solid, a good man, and made sure that everybody was taken care of. I loved working with him. And for it to be my first gig, I mean,
that's a dream come true.
He holds a special place in my heart. And
you didn't audition. And no audition.
And no audition. That's a whole other story.
That's a whole testament to how
bad you are. Definitely share, right? So I saw
him. The next book. Keep that for the next book.
The next book for sure. But I do want to say that I saw him a couple of years ago in Atlanta. I had helped a friend of mine choreographer 2 Chainz. And he was at in the back, and they were like, "Yo, this is Dacia. She did the Grammy with Gold Digger back in the day." He's like, "Oh snap! Oh, you know, that's what's up." You know, so
you're like, "Yeah, you remember me.
You remember me? I was the AKA that was stepping." You know, it's a full circle moment, right?
Right.
And he's very gracious and very humble, despite what other people think.
He seems very charming.
Yeah, he's down to earth.
Like stoicness. He's seen when he does speak, and when you do hear from him, he's like a very charming, smiling, happy person.
But when he's in his creative zone, that's a different story. You know, you can't really interrupt that, right?
For everybody though, it's like when I'm on set and I'm in the corner quiet for a reason, and somebody comes and asks me, "Am I okay?" I'm like, I am okay.
I'm in my zone, right?
I'm okay. I was just working.
Yeah. I'm just working. Like this.
Yes, I'm just working.
Everybody's creative process is different.
Yeah.
I can't say that he is a creative genius, and I would not interrupt his genius. How about that?
I love it. And what is your dream? You already, I already know the answer because you blurted it out at the beginning. Viola Davis.
Wait.
I love to.
She is at the top of the list, but above all, my muse.
Your muse. Okay, who is your on-camera muse?
Hands down is Debbie Allen.
Ooh.
Debbie Allen is the beast of all beasts. The reason why I love Debbie Allen so much is because she never denies any character, any category or genre of her gifting. She never says, "I'm no longer a dancer, I'm a choreographer. I'm no longer a choreographer, I'm an actor. I'm no longer an actor, I'm a director." She says actor, dancer, producer, which shows we're multi-hyphenated, multi-talented people, but we tend to put ourselves in this box, right? That we can't do anything more than this. I love that she has expressed the fullness of every gift. And I aspire to do the same. I am not just a choreographer. I am not just a creative director. I am not. And then when you add the Christian element on top, I'm not a Christian choreographer. I'm not a Christian actor. I'm a choreographer who is a Christian. I'm an actor who is a Christian. I'm a producer who is a Christian, right? And so watch my walk of life in my gifting don't put any type of rules or regulations on me because I am a Christian.
You're so robust in every way. The way you speak, the life you lead. Do you do motivational speaking?
I speak all the time. My publicist, we trying to get more of these engagements, right? Like I need to. I'm sitting here like, wow. Can I get a TED Talk?
Yeah, that's, I have that. Maybe not. I'm not going to put that. I love TED Talks.
Yeah.
And I'm engaged in the thinking of, can I get a TED Talk? Yeah. But I need some public speaking classes. I need to get on your level first.
Well, that is a part of my master's too. We have a public speaking class, yeah. But yeah, we'll be on TED Talks, hands down. I really want to do a TED Talk on the rules of engagement, the middle of the book, when we talk about how to have a conversation with people. Yeah, definitely can get in and talk to people about that.
I see it for you. Every time you go onto that TED Talk, just say, that's for me.
That's for me.
That's what I do with everything. That's for me.
That's for me. It's right on my vision board right here. Yeah, Oprah is holding my book right here on the vision board.
My vision board is wild. I'm like, sometimes I'm embarrassed. I keep it.
No, let it be known.
My mom's like, let me see what you have on that little thing.
No, I got good sex and everything up here.
Yes.
Put it all on there.
There is no shame in our biggest, wildest dreams. I agree with you. It's been an honor, Dacia. Well, I want to go back and I want to say that the way that we met was kind of divine intervention, because now we've prayed together. Now we do, events like these that we support each other. And I'm happy to support you in every capacity on your journey. So count on me. Like I can see the playback and I look crazy.
I can see little stuff.
Dacia, we love you. Thank you so much. We actually don't know how deep and how wide our reach is until we open our mouths to talk and we share our stories. So I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your essence. I appreciate your walk with God. I admire your walk with God. And I really appreciate your vulnerability and your openness to be so raw and real. And
thank you.
Putting your real life out there, because this isn't somebody else's life. This is your life.
Yeah.
And we can be inspired by it and take notes on how to keep smiling through the game of life, because you have to take some time. So
absolutely.
I love you. Thank you so much. And
guys,
this time you. Okay, so we can have our little off conversation. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed our Muse of the Week, Dacia James Lewis.
Yes.
Can you give us, just in closing, just shout out some of your social handles so people can follow you? And
yeah, so everybody follow me, please. Right? Social media, as I'm getting my master's in digital communication, we got to make sure everybody follows me. Okay.
Yes.
So my handle is @Dacia James. No Lewis.
No Lewis.
Yeah, just Dacia James on Instagram, on Twitter, on all of them. Yeah, it's @Dacia James. And then my website, of course, Women Wives Warriors, which is my company that I support a lot of women. It's a community of women. We do free workout classes on Saturday via Zoom we started during the pandemic and it has kind of continued. We also do quarterly prayer. We did F2020 prayer at the end of last year. As we said, forget 2020. Let's walk into 2021 with expectations. So womenwiveswarriors.com. Definitely join the community as we continue to inspire. It's like one woman, yes, we can do it. But with a lot of women, man, we can conquer the world. So I just love this community of women. So if you're a woman, just definitely tag us, join the family. We'd love to have you. We'd love to pray for you.
Amen. I love it. You see, and the things keep going with Dacia. It's like, now I got to go on the website and find the workout class and the prayer. Keep going. All right, guys, we're going to get going. Thank you very much for joining us. And